This is my channel right here. It's called DMC Sessions.
I move slowly in this world, accustomed to aspiring no longer to appear. I'm using this as my entry line for this talk because it explains part of my experience in life. And as I've connected with and had conversations with so many African people around the continent and the diaspora, I realized that this also describes the experience of many other Africans. Black Man Know Yourself. I've chosen this title. It's lifted from one of the tracks on Femi Kuti album that was released about 20 years ago, called Shoki Shoki. And in this song, he motivates the African man to denounce the effects of colonialism, of the culture that has been taken away from Africa in many ways, or denounced and ridiculed, and for African men to stand up and own their journey and their identity. And this talk is inspired by that song. Knowledge of self, we could say that self-knowledge is the beginning of all knowledges. It's the platform that you stand on, is the ability to be. Without it, from an African point of view, you will be unable to really form a purpose and to hold yourself in terms of self-determination, in terms of who you are supposed to be as an African man or as an African woman. This is a sensitive subject, and I need to make a disclaimer. When I say, for instance, or I refer to certain challenges that African men endure, it is not in opposition, or it's not to the neglect, or it's not to undermine the many, many atrocities and experiences that are endured by African women. It's also not a competition about who's got it worse. I think it's more a realization that we all have problems, and this talk wants to address some of the issues that African men face. It is also not a pity party. This is not about feeling sorry for ourselves. This is not about African men just pleading with weakness. This is about taking responsibility. And it is also not to paint all black men with the same brush and say that we all have exactly the same experience. I think we have many common denominators, but we are aware of the diversity of experiences of African men, and it's not to the neglect of that. So this is a podcast you've been doing for some time.
Yes, I've been doing it for since 2018. Well, I started 2019.
Okay.
I started it just talking in front of the camera, sharing a lot. And then I ended up inviting guests at some point. And then I stopped for some time, and then I brought it back again.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
No, it's good you remind us it's possible to start again.
We
did the Unstuck for 2 years. I was so tired. Every week. I was so tired. It was for the most of the time, it was a 2-hour show. So also to invite guests and explain and it was beautiful. Yes. But at the end of last year, I said no. I don't know when we're gonna get back. But right now I'm not in the mood. Yes. So we haven't gotten back yet.
No, I understand, because the consistencies is a difficult thing.
It's a lot of planning, a lot of details, and you want it to stand out. You want it to be,
Yeah, and to also make sure the content is always impactful.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah. But anyways, what's up, everybody? I go by the name of Aphendule Phakade, and this is the DMC Sessions. I'm joined by a man I respect a lot. I met him when I came for one of the things that he does. He's going to explain actually who he is and what he does and everything. But thank you so much for being here.
Wow. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. I would love to know, first of all, who you are, where you come from, just to get an idea. What do you do?
Sure.
And so on.
Right. No, thank you so much. So I'm Baba Buntu. I am director of a company in Joburg called Ebukhosini Solutions that we started in 2002. And I think, how do I explain who I am? For the last 35 years,
I have been a very stubborn, very very stubborn, hopefully change maker.
Yes.
I think part of my motivation comes from anger and frustration.
Oh, okay.
But I think and hope most people don't know me so much as an angry or frustrated person. I try to I want to be part of solutions to what I'm angry about. And what I'm really angry about is that we, as one of the most significant people on the planet, have sunk so low and are really at the bottom of this world, where we came to this planet to be leaders, and we are not playing our role right now. And that's for many, many reasons. Some of them include colonialism, apartheid, and the people who have attacked and disempowered us. But I also feel that we have sunken very low into identifying as the victimized people now. And we need to be the solution people we came here to be. And that's what I'm trying to be part of. Networks, campaigns, projects, and lifelong commitments to really revolutionize, but change and heal and restore this beautiful continent that I'm very, very passionate about. That's the shortest I can say.
It's interesting when you say solutions, because the title of your brand is Ebukhosini Solutions.
That's right. Yes.
So about Ebukhosini, where did it come from? Where's the concept come from, and what is it about?
Right. So we chose the name Ebukhosini because of its meaning of the royal house. Even if we are strictly traditionally speaking, we are not a family of Khosi descent, in the sense that we have been given that title by a cultural authority. We took the name because we wanted to remind everyone we work with and ourselves that we are a royal people. And royal, not in the sense of being above anyone or trying to be seen as sitting on a pedestal of any sort, but coming from a royal lineage of African people, and honor the life we have been given, squeeze as much as possible meaning out of it, and make every single day, every hour, every second meaningful towards the solutions for this continent. So royal solutions means that we remind ourselves that we are royal people. And I think when we do that, we want to treat each other with respect, and we want to bring back that Black love, that commitment to the Black being, the child, the woman, the man, the family, and that everyone, hopefully, who engages with us, don't just hear us saying that, but actually experience that. That's what we're about. That's my hope.
And I see a lot of that.
Thank you.
When I came here in your home, very beautiful home.
Thank you so much.
Very welcoming, and how you also treat your family. It looks like you're a very family-orientated person.
Very, and which is quite interesting because I come from an African Caribbean family in the Eastern Caribbean. Came to South Africa in '93.
Okay.
So a long story. Let me not get into all the details of that, but I decided to stay, and I decided to be part of the many movements that inspired me in this country. Revolutionary movement, revolutionary voices, revolutionary campaigns, and change making. I come from a big family, but a very fragmented and scattered family.
Okay.
And for quite a huge amount of my own upbringing or growing up, I didn't feel I was part of a family. I didn't understand what family really meant. I always thought of family as something I was missing and lacking. And I remember carrying that with shame. Like when people say, so who's your parents? Can we just change the topic? Like, I don't want to talk about it. Not because I was ashamed, but because I didn't know a lot about my lineage. I didn't know much about my family. I wasn't connected with most of the family members. And it took me a long journey to walk, to find the courage to seek them out and find them, which I did. And that changed a lot of things in my life. All of a sudden, I was part of a family, and I had brothers and sisters and uncles and aunties, and I'd grown up without them. But I think I still choose to live physically very far from my family, although we are very close now. But the issue of family has always been very, very deep for me. And I remember since a child, I was dreaming and fantasizing that if I one day could set up a household or a home where where everyone was part of it, could feel that they're part of a family.
Yeah.
And I think I've been blessed to be able to do that. And with the background I just shared with you, I think that also means that not a day goes by without me being extremely thankful for that opportunity and not taking it for granted at all. It's a rare thing in my life, and I work with a lot of people who have a similar experience. And Ebukhosini has become a home for many souls that for a long time have felt very bewildered and not fitting in this world. So belonging and placing and spacing has been very important for me.
What would you say is like something that somebody could do if they're in a situation where they're not close with their families? Because I also know a lot of people who don't have any family communication or, you know, family love or family support. Like if you're trying to find yourself, especially if you're on a journey of trying to find yourself, you know, and maybe you're blocked off, how did you also like connect?
So the first thing I did was I didn't have so much information to go by, and I didn't have a lot of people who were willing to give me information. So it felt I think I always felt that asking a lot of questions was wrong and that I shouldn't. So when I embarked on a journey myself, tried to find addresses, tried to find names, tried to call up numbers, it felt extremely scary. That's what I remember. It was very scary because I also thought, is there a reason why I haven't been told this information? Is there something really bad behind the question? Like if I get answers to the questions, will I end up regretting it? So I remember shivering and trembling, walking to certain houses, standing outside, walking down the road again, not wanting to knock on the door because I wasn't sure if it's going to end well. And it did end well. But I think as a general advice, I would say, when you feel that all avenues are closed, at least try to find out the information about your family. If there's a lot of misinformation and secrecy, try to talk to close friends or family or elders if they're available and interested to talk. Try to understand why things have ended up like they have. Because I think we often, for instance, those of us who have experienced to grow up without our fathers, we often just know that. And we often identify just as a fatherless son or a fatherless daughter. But we may not know that there's a story behind the fatherlessness too. And it might not be an okay story. It might be a lot of things that can be problematic with it. But to know a bit more than just that I was left or I was abandoned is important, so that you don't just harbor hatred and identify as somebody who were not acknowledged or you are more than that. And I think finding information, number one, and travel. I find that many people in South Africa are scared of traveling. They might travel for holiday reasons, but to get to know people. I've had this experience, and I kind of joke a little bit about it when people say, I say, no, go to East London. But I don't know anybody there. Exactly. That's why you should go. Like, find out what's going on, find out what they are doing there. And I think Africa, for me, the continent, has always been a continent where people move. The disinterest in traveling, that's a conditioning from apartheid. That's not a normal thing. It's something that has been blocked in the spirit, that people think, no, let me not go too far because I don't know these people. Like that skepticism and that discomfort when somebody is different. The African natural self is like, who are you? You're just different. This is interesting. Where are you from? Wanting to taste your food, wanting to understand your language, can I come and visit? Like, that is such a natural African thing. But to a huge extent, I feel that has died a lot in this part of the continent. And I want, especially the young generation who I work a lot with, to bring that back. So I keep pushing sons and daughters of the house to travel. Like, by the end of this year, you need to travel. Otherwise, you don't come back. These are the disciplinary actions in this house. No, but we need to travel. We need to meet each other. We need to understand each other. And that's when we do that, we do exactly what our enemy doesn't want. Because there's a design of separation. I mean, that's what apartheid is about. And separation works. I don't know if you've been to Europe, but when you visit Europe, you will see that people are very comfortable staying behind big fences, staying in huge apartment flats and not even knowing who's next door. That's just a thing. And it's uncomfortable if anybody comes and asks, can I borrow this? Or I see that you have a child, maybe they can play together. No, why should they play together? Like, it's uncomfortable for many Europeans to, and I think we have been forced to adopt that, and that's something we need to undo.
Wow. So I've also noticed you're talking about growing up. What I've seen you doing, you are focusing a lot on men, young boys and stuff. Where do you think that comes from? Because I do used to have these discussions. I mean, there are things out there for young women, and
Sure.
people talk a lot bad about guys and the
Yeah.
things that we do, but we also don't have the understanding that they have a lot of trauma that they're going
Absolutely.
through. Men are misunderstood, boys are misunderstood and stuff. So
True.
can you touch on that and tell me also, where did your passion come?
I think it has a lot to do with my own journey as an African man in this world, feeling very lost, realizing that there's so much information that I was never told, and feeling very upset about understanding that by design I wasn't supposed to know. Because when we know, we become dangerous, and we become a disruption to the systems that are trying to cage us and make sure we are not really liberated and free. But I think I didn't necessarily choose to work with African men. That's not how I remember that journey opening up. I think I was actually quite reluctant. And I think there's something strange, or maybe it's changing now, because men are now more intentional about having conversation, especially younger men. But for a long time, it was strange to have something for men. Like, at least it must be about soccer, but like something that we know. But just to sit and talk as men gathering.
Feelings.
About your feelings. It's something strange. Like, it's suspicious. Why do you want to do this? For what? What is the interest in this? So I think I was also socialized into that. So even if I did have some thoughts about it, because I remember many years ago I was visiting London, England, and I heard that somebody was hosting a meeting for brothers, and I was like, what does that look like? What is discussed there? And I was very curious, and I went, and it was really a nice. I can't even call it a session. It was a dialogue between African brothers. I think we watched a documentary of some sort, and then we had a discussion and just talked, and it was really beautiful. And I realized that this is something that I'm not used to. And I'm living as if this is something that I'm not supposed to need or express that I need or even find. So I think I kept it. I still wasn't confident to go out and do that, because I felt that it could be easily misunderstood, and I wasn't sure. I think, and I now, having done it for so many years, I think I'm also connecting with seeing, especially my age group, is actually I find my age group being very reluctant and scared to go into meetings like this, because maybe we are scared that, I think we live with this already notion of ourselves that we're not good enough. There's a lot of things about us that could be critiqued, problematized. So I think if we're going into a space to talk about being a man, we're just expecting to be mowed down with lots of criticism and how useless we are and how we can't even do 1, 2, 3. And often as men, we are also suspicious of each other. When we meet new men, we're like, who are you?
Wow.
Oh, you're a CEO. Oh, let me greet you, like, very respectfully. Or you don't even have a job. Like, we are very hierarchical in the way we measure who's important in the room and who's not. So it's a bit intimidating to go into a room with only men and then talk about being a man. So I think most of us want to avoid it. And I think the reason I did embrace that, I think I would like to call it a call to do it.
Okay.
Was that there was so few organizations doing exactly that at the time when I started. This was 2007, 2008. And I felt that those who were doing it, they only framed the African man as a problem. So it was HIV, it was violence, it was only that. And nobody really wants to gather because they are labeled a problem. So to find an approach, and I think everywhere I went to speak or to engage with communities, even in different countries, I realized that many African men came up to me afterwards to ask very similar questions. And I realized that there's no space. And there were some men's projects and some stuff around, but all of it was run and initiated by Western organizations. And I realized that because I heard a lot of men asking, what does it mean to be an African man? And that's not a question about violence, about HIV, about health, first and foremost. It's a question of identity. So I realized also that there's a need for a project where you can be a Black man, be an African man, and that's not something you even have to excuse or explain if you don't want to, or talk about, unless you feel you want to. So that's the origin that became the Shabaka Men of Africa project,
Okay.
which is one of many projects that we run at Ebukhosini, but it has been maybe the one that many have seen because we advertise quite a lot. We have been to different parts of the country and the continent.
Nice.
So now a number of people know about it. But I think it's important to say also that my wife runs a program for women, Kandaka.
Okay.
And we have programs for children, we have programs for youth. So it's not only the men's program. So I'm taking a long round to explain that what I'm really passionate about is the African family. And I realize that there are very few places for men who are intentional about being great men, African men, to really mold themselves, meet other men who are in the same space. And that's what Shabaka really is about.
Wow. What do you think made you focus a lot on the African person?
Because we are Africans and we feel we don't belong. We go to school, we read books and we can't even find our own story. And we get diplomas and papers and we stand before the world and we are employable and great and people clap for us and we go to graduations. But we know nothing about ourselves. And we are one of the few people in the world that have that as the norm. Everyone else, when they graduate and when there's accolades around what they have achieved, one of the side results that they also have is that they know much more about their own people's struggles and victories. We don't have to check anything to get to the place of being employable. So I think for me, I made a decision many years ago, probably 35 years ago, that the only people I want to work with is our own. So I'm the type of person who, and I know people find this very controversial, that if there are people of other races seeking our programs out, they will be told that no, this is not for you. And it's not about hatred.
They won't relate with it.
They won't relate. And we can't sit and talk about how to change and improve and empower ourselves and have spectators. It's a family conversation. So for me, it's really about us understanding what history over the last 1,000 to 1,500 years and more have done to us, and not just agree that that's going to be our future. And that means we need to, not everyone can be in the room, not everyone can be part of that conversation. And if people are provoked by that, then so be it. I'm provoked by us having had to go through this, and I don't know there's anyone I can just put that issue in front of. I have to be the part of the solution to that problem.
True.
Yeah.
So which places have you traveled to, out of curiosity? Maybe you can't count, but if you can try.
So, well, I've lived in Europe for quite a long time, and I think actually interestingly, my African awakening started in Europe, meeting with other Africans from other parts of the continent. And I think maybe late teenage, I was already very politically inclined. I was very engaged, as a student, you start and I was also very personally engaged since a child in all issues that had to do with injustice and racism and all of that. It just took me a long time to find brothers and sisters that were on the same journey. I felt that a lot of the people, our people that I ran into, were more interested in other things, and they were looking at me like, why do you make everything so difficult? Why do you have to go into all these political issues? We don't want to think about that. And I wanted to think about that, but not only think, also be part of actions and solutions. So where I've traveled, I think I've always had a deep interest in understanding how African people in different parts of the world and different parts within a community or a city, how they live and what they are concerned about and what they do. So my travel has not been so much about me saying, where on the map do I want to go? 1, 2, 3, 4. It has been more about people finding what I do interesting and knowing about it, and then inviting me to do a lecture or visit a community. And when I do that, I just make sure that I can stay for some extra days. And I'm not happy if I go to a country or a place I haven't been and if I don't meet with African young people, especially. It's not only Africans, also they have to be young people, because I made a commitment to myself when I was 18 that I am not allowed to forget what it's like to be young and black in this world. So whatever age I get to, I must have a preference for young people. I must be available, because I wrote to myself in my journals that I don't know how to approach elders. Like I try, but it doesn't work so well. They will just have a quick conversation and then they are busy.
Yeah.
And then I feel I'm a disturbance, I'm an annoyance. So I don't want to be that. And I'm not allowed to be that type of elder. So when I get to that age, it must be very clear that I'm prioritizing, I'm open to, and I walk with young people. And that's what life has blessed me with. And it's very interesting because I have many peers who don't understand why I want to spend so much time with all these young people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting also because I think they teach me to see the world through their eyes. So I also see how boring my age group can be. How we talk for a long time, how we want to unpack, and people are asleep, young people around are sleeping. So you'll find me going to a conference and I'm sitting in the corner with young people and say, take me out, let's go somewhere. Show me your place. And then my age group is sitting here talking. And it's not that I'm hating talking, but I just think that when you reach a certain age, you need to put young people in front and go to the back, but be the support. Because I remember what it's like to grow up. Everything that I've ended up doing, I did. And that's not to say I haven't had support. I've had incredible people who have supported me, who have believed in me, who have worked with me. But I never really felt that I had elders I could lean on. Like I had to go out, and I even felt I was held back. No, I don't think you should do that. That's too controversial, or people are not going to understand that. And I was like, I'm going to do that. Support me, get my vision. No, they didn't get that. So I think I'm trying to the best of my ability to always be that ear to young people. And also when they believe something that maybe I don't agree with, I also don't want to just criticize it and say it's not going to work. Rather, let me say that this is what I know, but I don't know what it's like to be young in the world right now because that is not my experience. So this is what I'd like you to know, and then you make decisions, and then you let me know how I can support you on that journey.
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm so inspired.
I didn't answer your question, actually. I've tried as much to travel on the African continent. I think I've been to something like 20 countries. But not for long necessarily. So it has maybe been that conference or a workshop in most countries. But like I said, I always try to book some extra days and then connect with some young people or a project that is based there, and then learn from young people in that country and see where I can support and maybe give some advice. So, yeah, Africa, the Caribbean a little bit, Europe a little bit. That's basically... Yeah.
How is the Caribbean? I mean, we see media, we see what's posted out, but I mean, it's different when you go to an actual place.
Absolutely. I think one thing that most people on the continent, and even especially in South Africa, do not know, because I think the stereotype about Caribbean is beaches and reggae and just sun and tanned women in bikinis like, forever. And of course, there are places you can go and you can see that. But what people may not be so aware of is how alive Africa is in the Caribbean, and much more than, for instance, in United States, which is the diaspora that people feel. Most people think that most African descendants are in America or in US, but that's just that's like 10% of the African diaspora. So the fact that there are traditional practicing spiritual communities, that are people who know African languages, sing their songs in African languages, cook African food in many, many parts of the African diaspora. I think that's something that people don't know. They think of the African diaspora as the lost nations, and they need to be taught to come back. So my inspiration, for instance, on my spiritual journey to be initiated into Ifa, which is an ancient West African system, came a lot from my Caribbean roots. But I decided I wanted to go to West Africa and do the studies and be initiated there, because that's kind of the roots of the practice. Yeah.
What is Ifa?
Ifa. So Ifa is an ancient religious or spiritual system where there are a number of deities that have developed over the years. Incredible people who were leaders in the community and have been deified after they passed in the flesh. And the practice of Ifa really is to revere the great God and gods. So there's a number of sub-gods and deities that one observes. And it's really to find your purpose and understand what you have been called for particularly. And then your practice will be around that.
Okay.
So you will seek help, you will be given instructions, you'll find out what specifically you should focus on and the values that you should make sure you develop to a very high level. And then obviously I don't live in an IFA community. There are very few IFA practitioners in this part of the continent.
Yeah,
so,
I haven't, this is the first time I hear about
yeah, okay. So my practice in South Africa, I have positioned that more as a Pan-African form of spirituality, meaning that I'm aware of Nguni spirituality, I'm aware of Sotho Tswana spirituality, and that is part of me as well because my wife is Motswana. I live in this part of the world. This is part of me. But in my practice, I look at Pan-African wisdom and practices that kind of unifies us as African people, because I think there's many elements of African spirituality that are very synonymous and similar across the continent.
No, I'm very inspired by what you're saying because I'm a guy who's very intrigued by traveling. I want to travel and do all those things, but obviously there's financial issues and all of that. So I wanted to kind of get your advice. Like, how did you get to a point where you're able to move about? Did you just start focusing on what you were doing and then you got recognized at some point, or was there any?
I don't know if I have a simple response to that story, because I think I just remember this. I had when I was very little, there was this white boy that I had a fight with. And it was a very silly fight. It started with us quarreling about something. And then I said to him that, I don't know, this was maybe when we were 7, 8 or something. And I said to him that at least when I grow up, I'm going to travel. Yeah. And which is not even something you say. Like, who wants to travel at 7? Like, what does even travel mean at that age? So I don't know where that even came from, because you would say that I'll be rich, I'll have 50 cars. You would say things like that. Not I'm going to travel. And I remember he was just perplexed. He didn't know what to say. Yeah, I also travel or something, but he didn't know. And I felt I really won that argument. And I don't know. But I think even at that age, I was just very fascinated by seeing different places and meeting our people in different situations. So for some reason, I think through that and through also understanding my purpose, I tapped into something that I'm supposed to do. And I think one of the things that I'm blessed with is that I can easily find myself in places with different cultural codes and study it to the point that maybe I cannot perfect it, but how can I say this? I think some of us are very stuck in our own cultural code and maybe not aware of it. Yeah. So we'll speak in a certain way, and when people don't understand us, we just get frustrated. But I've always found that interesting and intriguing, how people communicate, how do women and men communicate? Oh, men do this, women do that. Okay, I should sit there, I should do this. Oh, interesting. And then kind of understand the pattern. And then not having an issue with following it, actually finding it interesting to be part of that, and find out how do you show respect, how do you show gratitude, how do you share your view on certain things. So I think that's how it really started, with that interest. And also always, whenever I've met people who are from different parts of the world, and especially from the Pan-African world, like I remember walking after people on streets and say, excuse me, can I just talk to you? Yeah. And they'd be like, yeah, what do you want? No, I don't know your dress code and the way you are, like, where are you from? I don't know if you have a minute. And I would just do that. And that would spark conversation. Then say, no, I have a sister who works, what. Okay, no, give me the number. And then I'll just started connecting. So I've always been a networking person. Yeah. And then when I started to kind of do more of the work that I now have ended up doing over the years with youth, with African history, African culture, all of that, I think I've just found myself in different places where people have recognized that I know something, or they like what I do. Yeah. And then they've taken my number and my contacts and say, no, we want to invite you for a conference. Nice. And that has happened.
Okay, so connection.
So connections is very important. Networking.
Relationships.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Very important.
Yeah, relationships are very powerful with anything, I feel.
True.
You can get in any space because you built a good relationship with someone. Exactly. It's like, I want to invite that person here. And then and then you meet someone else, and then it's like, oh, okay, it becomes a whole network.
True. Yeah. So true. And I think what people may also not know when they don't travel a lot is that, first of all, there are a lot of people who are moving in this world physically.
Yes.
So I remember sharing with other people, like, so some years ago, I was invited to a city in Brazil that I hadn't been to before, and I decided to go 3 days early. And then people are, so where are you going to stay? I'll find out when I get there.
Yo.
What do you mean? Like, no, you go to Brazil, we hear all kinds of stories. Like, are you mad? I said, no, but and so the thing is, the reason I can do that is because over the years that I've traveled, when something has happened or there's a delay on a train or a flight or something, you end up in places of commuting. And then there will always be people who also are stranded or stuck or waiting for somebody, or there's a problem with money or something. And you spark conversations, say like, can I just ask, are you waiting for someone? And when you've never done that, it might seem very odd to ask that question. But hey, we are in a place of travel. It's not a strange thing to ask. And you can also see people going up and down and say, but then you understand what that means. So it's not odd to say, I don't know, are you waiting for someone? Because I'm also waiting for someone. So I just wanted to ask, this uncle is supposed to come and get me, but now it's getting dark and what. You know what kind of money do you have? No, this and that. Let's go together. Maybe we'll find a cheap place to stay. And then that's the connection. Then the next day say, what? So are you busy? Maybe you can come to us and stay one night or have a meal.
Nice.
And this is something you haven't planned. So if you book your whole journey, I'm staying 3 nights here, 2 nights there, I'm taking this car, I'm doing this, then you are very restricted. So you also need to travel with, I'm not saying you shouldn't have any plan at all, especially when you're starting out. But my point is just to say that Africa takes care of you in its own way. I spoke to a sister who has traveled 53 African countries alone.
Wow.
As a woman, and I think that's what a lot of people do. You travel alone, isn't that dangerous? Because I think we have also this understanding of the continent as very problematic and very, are there even hotels? Do they know how to drive a car? Like there's all kinds of different stereotypes that we harbor about each other. And the thing is, yes, you need to take care. Yes, you can't just trust any situation. But I think as you travel, you also build this street smartness that you can see these guys are not looking at me because they want to help. These guys are thinking that this might be somebody we could rob. And you stay closer to other people, you can see that this is going to be safer. So you learn how to kind of adapt to different situations. But don't have too much plans. Travel to a place that you feel this is quite different than me. I'm not sure if that's where you should go. Don't just go to experience another South Africa. You understand?
Yes. No, I hear you. I want to touch on this subject because you're speaking about being very political growing up. So I just wanted to get your take on politics.
Sure.
South African politics specifically, and then maybe we can touch on politics.
Well, my introduction to South African politics was that I read a lot about the struggle years of South Africa, and I was very invested in what underground movements were doing at the time, the PAC, the AZAPO, the military actions. I had access to information where I could follow quite a lot, even from afar. And I remember working at a youth hostel in Netherlands, in Europe. And then I found this shop that was a book and music shop, but it was really raising funds to support the freedom movement in South Africa. So I got in touch with a lot of people who had information. When I came to South Africa in 1993, I knew quite a lot. And I already had a network of people that I could seek out and get more information from and understand how they were moving in the political landscape. But I think South Africa also did this to me that especially when I moved here permanently, I have since the beginning I've always been very skeptical to party politics. So I've not been impressed and not attracted to, I've never wanted to take up any political portfolio in any organization. I feel that every political organization, because we work within a system that is not even developed by us and for our needs. So however radical or well-meaning your party is, when it's in power, it's gonna be forced within this in this world system to perform very similarly to how other parties and governance systems works in this world under Western and American rule, because that's really how we live. So I've always been very interested in the opposition and those who are fighting against the grain and those who are exposing the dominant parties and politicians. But I've decided to stay out of party politics. I have friends and I'm invited to functions that are by some political groups and political parties, but I've never wanted to join. And I think also because I didn't come into consciousness because I was raised in a particular conscious way. I came into this breaking out away from everything that I've been taught, being seen as a huge problem. Like, why do you have to go into this? I remember my father when at our early years of finding a new ground to communicate, he was literally ashamed of me. Like, why do you do this? The way you are dressing, the way I could see he was literally ashamed. But I think I also was able to inspire and awaken something in him, because some years later I found him listening to the radio if I was there. I found him he was studying the books in secrecy that I was talking about, and he would teach me about things that I'm thinking. But I think you heard that from me. So that was kind of his way of reconciling. And that was a beautiful experience. I didn't expect that. But I think because of that, because I haven't grown up in a particular political conscious way as a child, I think for a long time I was envious of people who have access to that. I think if I was there, then my life would be fine. But I think always being outside and away from very solid political structures and movements for a long time, it also made me appreciate that it's not just about ideology. So for instance, part of my Pan-African practice starts with that I'm able to greet in a few African languages, for instance, outside of this region. And it means a lot when you connect with other sisters and brothers that you can greet in their language. And people might not see that as a political point. But for a people that are so displaced and marginalized as we are, even just a simple thing like that is, and the thing is, when you do that, because in an African culture, it means also that you're humbling yourself. You're not just coming there with what you know. You are there to learn, and you are showing it through greetings. You will be invited into other meetings than those who are just coming. Yeah, we are here to understand, like you guys. Like you will not necessarily be received the same way. And if you are, it's more out of protocol. Whereas my connection point has always been that warmth and that human connection, more than just political affiliation. So I've sat next to and worked with people who are very different in orientation. But I don't also want to just be a judgmental, like, you haven't read this book, so you're not conscious enough, I'm not going to talk to you. I was that person. So why should I now have a chip on my shoulder? You know? But I want to be very intentional at the same time. I don't have a problem socializing and talking and being with people who do not see the world the same way that I do. But I want to be very intentional about what I do. I don't want to apologize. I want to be, if people experience me as rough-edged and militant and that's fine. Like, I'm not going to excuse that. That's something that I do not out of hatred but out of love for our people. And I don't think we can sit on the fence and just talk. I'm very bored with talking in that sense. I always say
apply
exactly
the discipline,
exactly
apply the structure.
The objective I always keep holding up to myself is that I must be that person that when you come unannounced to visit me, you'll find me doing something. It's not something that I present because you are here to interview me or because I'm invited to a conference, or it's not for show. It's not for other people's applause. It's because we need to do this. We are at war and we need to take a side. Are you going to be part of the solution, or are you just going to sit there? It's a decision we need to make.
Every day.
And
even to ourselves. I feel like there's also an importance of working on yourself.
Absolutely. And that's maybe the hardest work.
The hardest part,
because we also know that people can learn the political lingo and go into political organizations and have very admirable and impressive profiles. But maybe there are the ones who are actually beating up their spouse. Maybe there are the ones who are neglecting their children. Maybe there are the ones who drink every day. But it's off stage. And then we are okay with what we see on stage. And I think stage can be an important place, but I think
it needs to all
exactly. And I think that's the greatest feedback I can get from young people as well, when they say, I feel safe when I'm around you in the house. No matter what I do outside or whatever on platforms, but I feel that just warms my heart to know that there's some people that I can make feel like that.
I feel like that's 80% of the work, when you can be
That's true.
that outside of your platform.
Absolutely. This is the work. The platform is not the work. That's just a report. You know, this is the work.
Yes.
And I must bring something to that platform that stands out and is represents a practice, not just a theory or a book or a something you can talk about.
Yeah. So if you're saying you're not really into politics like that, what do you think maybe the country, nation, or people would need to be able to firstly be liberated, to live a more free life and a more substantial life?
Yeah. You know what? I have had many stages in my life where I've had very totalitarian ideas about how the world must be and which political rhetoric must follow. I think in my older age, I'm more understanding that I'm not going to invest so much time on being very staunch in one idea of looking at how the world must move. But I want to be very clear about how I want to move in the world and what I can contribute. And what I'm trying to contribute to is to gather and reach out to and organize and mobilize and hopefully inspire many young Africans to have a form of support. And it's not financial, it's more moral, it's more as a person, as somebody who's living in this world, so that they can get an understanding of politics, history, economic, spirituality, and practice their leadership differently. First and foremost, in the home. When I say that, I'm not saying that because we are good at home, all these problematic African situations around the African continent and the world is going to change by itself. But the thing is, for instance, we talk about, we need to reclaim our land. And we need that right now. But at the same time, we also need some of us planning how we're going to live on the land.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that this should hold the process, but some need to work on that. Some need to work on the legal measures. Some need to work at the economic systems. But I think what I'm trying to contribute to is also what are the values we're going to live with as African sisters and brothers, as husband and wife, as sons and daughters, as elders and youth. And what are the political values that we need to harbor and understand? How do we fight white supremacy without just barking and shouting and screaming, which may be also part of it, because I think it's healthy sometimes to just belt out your anger and just say F this and what. But it doesn't necessarily change a lot. But it maybe put a certain energy within yourself, and that's important. But how do we use the awareness of systemic oppression and also our history of who we were, so that we actually work together towards planting that idea and exemplifying that idea. And I have come, for instance, one of my passions that I now understand that I may only be part of creating a foundation for. It's something that I need to allow the next generation to work further on, is African-centered schooling in this part of the continent. And my experience, because I've really been championing and working on this for a very long time, most people are very scared.
Scared of change,
or too comfortable talking, because if you're going to start a school, it's not just about the curriculum, which is very important, of course. It's not just about talking about what colors are we going to have on the walls. It's actually building it and knowing that you're not going to get any support. It's to charge parents for the fees and them being very reluctant, say, what kind of school is this? What do you mean African school? You guys, I know what you guys are doing. And they may walk away and you have 2 students and still go on after you have stressed and given away all your money for 3 years. Very few of us have the capacity to do that, and maybe even the patience. So it's easier to go and seek a job. It's easier, and you tell yourself that when I got the money, then I'm going to do it. But are you? Because now you're also asked, maybe you should climb in the ranks. Maybe you should add another course so you can get better pay. And you kind of get locked into the system. And now you know that it's not going to work for you, even socially, to start talking about starting an independent school. For what? And you also realize, because of the way you work, all the people that you know now are not revolutionaries.
Yes, true.
So I feel that there's so many systems that lock us. And I must say this, I'm very blessed to have been able to. The last employment I had was in 1996. That was my last employment.
That's
And if you ask me where do I get money from, I can't even give you like a very understandable answer. Uh, Meaning that 1 year this has worked, another year this has worked. Sometimes we have gotten projects, sometimes we have been consulting, other times people have said, you know what, we really love what you do, could we give you this, and you just give us a report at the end, for instance. So we've been supported
always
a
sustained.
lot, always sustained.
Wow.
And even when we are about to fall off the edge, something has happened.
Yo.
So I don't even have a model to say that this is what you do, this is how you do it. But for some reason it has worked for us. And I can only really ascribe it to us living our purpose and being very intentional. And I'm talking about myself and my wife, as we kind of rose within ourselves individually, but also as we met as an African couple, two people being very bruised by the experience of life, feeling very lost in this world, and even giving up on like, is family even going to work? Like we only know families are falling apart.
Yes.
So how are we going to make it different? And to meet each other with that knowledge and say, you know what, let's start building. Let's be very honest with each other. Let's be very clear that this is not going to be easy. So we're not going to take anything for granted. And all we know is that things are working today. Hopefully they will work tomorrow as well. And let's do today what hopefully benefits the experience tomorrow. And that has been our journey.
Wow.
And I know that that's a huge blessing. It's a huge luxury.
It is.
So you may not have the greatest bank account amount, but I'm waking up every day being able to do what I love.
So you're rich.
You could come and say, we are doing an inquiry here, but I'm not going to even spend a second shivering. Everything is open. You can check whatever you want. There's no fear. And that is a luxury because most of us live with fears. If you're going to be examined and be told, whoa, wait, what is this? And to live with that is just a richness that I can't even explain.
I think what I'm also taking from this is that people should focus on their journey, their life, and see what they can contribute.
Yeah, true.
Because if everybody thinks that way, I feel like they can be a contribution on a bigger scale. Because I think we're thinking too much about, hey, we should do these big things and whatever. But no one is actually taking the time to just first work on their self.
Absolutely.
And then from there, you even end up getting ideas and you end up getting what you need to do.
So true.
You know, and we might think it's small, but it's not. Every little piece matters.
It's not. And I wish, and I'm not saying that this is just a single track type of plan, but I really wish that we can get to a stage where we look at power in a much more decentralized way. That's what I want. That's what I hope that I'm working towards and also preparing those I work with for. That we don't need just governance structures whose aim is to make everybody do the same
thing,
and produce profits. We are also here to live to be healers. We are here to live so that we can reclaim knowledge and wisdom, things that in this world doesn't warrant money and pay. It's not seen. I mean, we talk about the loss of somebody like Sanusi Credomutwa, but do you know that there are still written scripts in boxes that nobody has been given any money to? So what the country is saying is that, yes, we want some indigenous knowledge, but we're not going to go to the source. We're not going to give. How much would that even cost? It's not even a huge sum to get somebody to type up and produce a book. That's knowledge that is sitting there right now. And that's not the only situation or only example. It's just a small example of, I feel our government is very disgenious to say that we really want our knowledge back. If we really wanted our knowledge back, we would see our elders and our wise storytellers and our revolutionary spokespeople be in very different places than they are right now. Right? As this is, as we live right now, leadership is just going to get more and more corrupted. So we need to also break out from the system and find a way to breathe. And then we can start slowly and gradually. And I think that's the only way. If we can't rush in things very quickly. Because what happens then is that you become the leader and we worship you for 2 years, but then we find out that you do something else and we take you down. And we are back even below zero again. Yeah.
I know. Is there anything else maybe you wanted to leave? Oh, I first wanted to say this while you were talking, sorry. In terms of maybe parents even being able to support these initiatives that people do. I think people first have to be conscientized in the space, in the things that we are. And I feel like, I don't know if it's just me, but the way I see the world going, the direction, I feel like there's a growing number of people who are becoming more and more conscious because of platforms, because of internet, because, and as much as, yes, the system may have planned something, but maybe now there's a whole life, it's something that's growing in life of its own.
True.
That's happening. And I'm really appreciative to be living in a time like this. I feel like I'm seeing a transition going on. And with the young people, you're working with the right people. They might take this future forward.
Exactly.
And actually have the means to do what needs to be done.
That's true. But I think, and I agree with you, but I think my fear is that I'm very scared of trends. I'm scared of hashtags. I'm scared of making deep and solid knowledge into things of the season. And for instance, when I say, and I don't spend much energy on this because I've got enough things to do. So I'm not about just criticizing what everyone else does. But I think I'm a bit nervous about what's going to be the repercussion or outcome of, for instance, getting to a point finally where traditional healing and going to Ubutwaza has been is seen at least in a different light. Let's not say fully respected, but at least seen in a different light, a better light. And more people follow their calling. But then we also have Instagram healing. Then we also have very problematic TV shows where people are using elements from traditional healing, but in ways that people think they are being informed, but they're getting like a fraction of what it really is about. And then there's also this need to, but we must use African knowledge, but we must make it cute. We must make it colorful. We must make it with long nails and long weaves as well. Like you can't criticize that. But it's not so much about criticizing, but this knowledge is supposed to get us back to basics. To the roots, and that because people say, but that means to look ugly and to eat horrible food. And that's not what it's about. But there's a texture that if we continue in the way that I just explained now, we will also not instruct the next generation to really understand what this is about. They will get the toppings. And I'm scared of what that means because I think we are not really trusting, even if I do agree with you that there's much more of consciousness right now, but also people read tweets. They're scared of these babies over here, the books, because there's like 600 pages. I don't know. I don't have time for that. Like, no, don't you have a PDF or like a chapter? And I get that. But I also know, and this is I'm gonna be old school on this point. However much I work with young people, I'm sure you understand. I get that you have other means and other ways, and that can work in certain spaces. But you also need to read full books. You also need to close off your Instagram and your WhatsApp and just be in a space for 2 days to read. You need to take notes. It's hard work, and I think what many of these gadgets, as much as they can have an advantage, they also make us think of that life must be easy. There must be a shortcut. We can't sit for a full hour. We can't study for the whole weekend. You also need to get our drink on and our amapiano on and all of that. No, sometimes we need to just get out of all of that and be called names and be seen as boring. Because if you really want to be part of change, you need to get your hands dirty. There is no nice and cute way to do this. So that's my fear, that more and more people are looking for those elements.
Wow, no, that's interesting. I feel a little embarrassed because I also hardly read. Wait, so for a person who doesn't
shame on you.
For a person who doesn't read a lot, what would you advise for? Because I mean, so overwhelming. You look at all these books and you're like, where do you even start?
So I think it depends on what you're interested in. I would say start where you're interested in. What is the biggest question you have about Africa? And be honest about it. Don't read a book just because others are saying it's the best book. That might be the best book for them. So for me, it started with history. I just wanted to understand what we have done in this world because I'm walking around with a shame. This is me being maybe late teenage, early 20s. I'm walking around with a shame representing a people that doesn't really have an important footprint on this earth. I'm thinking that we are, in fact, the people who haven't really done real science. That's what I know about us, and that's how I move. So when science come up, I'm quiet. When power is being discussed, I'm not saying anything. So is this true? Is this the only narrative? And then when I found out, but hey,
There's so much
it's
more.
not like that. It's not even close.
Wow.
Like, Joe, and now you know what happens when you start to read new information. Now you want to
Get
be
excited,
an
yeah.
evangelist. You want to teach everyone. You
Teach
don't even know
everyone.
half of the story, but you want to teach everyone.
Yeah.
So I did that too. I wanted to convince everyone in every conversation I had something smart to say.
Yeah.
But I guess after some time, it also kind of balanced out. And so my angle was to start with history.
Okay.
But for someone else, it might to be so for my wife, for instance, her angle was to start with spirituality. She always had questions about that. She always wanted to ground herself deeper. And now she is somebody who consults in the spiritual space because of the road that she has allowed herself to walk. So I can't really say this is the book.
Yes.
But if you say I want to read about history, I can advise. And it also goes with your ability to read, meaning I can give you a thick book of 700 pages because I think this is the book that's going to blow your mind. But when you fall asleep on page 2, like it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So you may have to start somewhere else. And I think that's what we promised with our library as well, with 600 books written by African people, that we have a book for every personality and interest. So if all you want to start with is, for instance, dance and movement, there's a book for that. If you want to understand drumming, there's a book for that. If you understand cooking. So I'm not picky and choosy about the angle, but read Black books, read books written by Black people, and at least have the intention that I want to not just, yes, I wanted to say, let's not just get smart. And I know that sounds so wrong because, but what I'm trying to say is, don't just do things because it seems to be the in thing to do. If you are interested in studying something, start there, but have the intention at least to expand your mind. And I would say that when you get through some of the initial books, also pick up books that you may not fully agree with. I think the ability and tolerating difference and sharpening your own thinking. How so you don't like this
How
book?
do you
Why?
disagree?
Exactly. What is your point then? How do you craft this better? And you then grow also within your intellectual capacity. We shouldn't just read books and then just tell them as if we did the research. Books are opinions. Books are part of a bigger truth.
Yes.
So books should also be diverse and rich and have different viewpoints.
I like when you said that, because I was like, a lot of people would say things because a book wrote it.
Exactly.
No, but it's like, really, that's someone's opinion. In the same way, I could also write a book.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But obviously, it must be substantial. What is it challenging in your mind? What are you relating with? What can you get from it?
Exactly.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
Is there anything that you want to leave? Like, I think I've exhausted the questions.
Well, there's so much, but I think maybe just a word to those who are sitting on the fence and wondering. You talk about purpose, you talk about calling, you talk about, I don't know, anything like that. Like, I haven't found anything similar to that. So what am I supposed to do? I think you find your purpose and calling by walking. Okay. So some people kind of just take a step back and wait for it to come, a dream, and to some it happens through a dream, it happens through an inner awakening. But for many of us, it also happens by exposing yourself to different situations and people and places. So again, back to traveling, which is not necessarily about even crossing a border, just moving around your own community. Like people who come to me and said, I can't get a job. And I say, walk a lot, walk around, connect with people. What is this woman selling tomato that you always pass judgmentally? How long has she been doing this? Strike a conversation.
Actually,
talk
to
her.
Nothing about it,
You don't know, and you just judge her. She doesn't know better. Maybe she tried many other things, and this is what she ended up doing. Because 12 o'clock, she needs to go home and look after her. Like, you don't know her story. And by knowing other people's stories, you are going to be reminded about, but where's my story? Like, why am I this way? You know how we often say that, no, you see, I can't do X and Y because I'm just like this. No, you're not just like this. Most of the things you are is a response to something else. So if you wake up very late in the morning, it's probably because that's what you've gotten used to, or you maybe grew up in a house where there was a lot of chaos, so you didn't really want to wake up early, because let the chaos start a little bit later. So I'm just trying to motivate that don't just move in the world as if you don't have any power. You may not have the power that you want right now, but you have power to make choices. You have power to choose who to spend time with. You have power over who you can allow to influence your thinking. You have power over how you spend at least part of your time. Your power over whether you should be in a relationship or not because you're not ready. That's a choice that many of us need to make. And I wish that more people knew that. So that you don't just do. And I think as men, we do a lot of things that when you ask, why do you do this? Well, I see others do it. Yeah, but that's not a reason. Why do you need to do this?
Yeah.
No, I don't really know. But that's dangerous.
That's dangerous.
That's really dangerous.
Yeah, it's a ripple effect.
And that's what I think fatherhood is so essential, just to maybe close on that.
Yeah.
Fatherhood is supposed to, and fatherhood is not only biological, but of course it starts there for most, but we live with a situation where many of us need to be fathers to people we didn't give birth to.
Yeah.
And what that means is that you need to give young people the courage to be who they came to be. And as a young person, you go back and forth in your mind, should I study this, should I do that? And you end up studying something maybe that because your parents expect it, but you don't really know if it connects with you.
Yeah.
And at one point you become resentful because now people have expectations and you're like, I thought I was going to do this so I can start walking in this world, but now you want this too? Like, who am I living for?
Ish.
And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't give and you shouldn't, like, I have no problem with black tax within a certain, I hate that expression, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the fact that as a young person you need to give back. I don't have a problem with that. But I think we live very influenced by a world that is very dangerous to internalize. We need to be the difference. We need to be not just the alternative, but the righteous different. Because we know better.
Yeah.
When we go deep, we know better.
Yeah. Wow, thank you so much, Baba Buntu.
Thank you.
That was
Thank
a
you.
very interesting interview. Guys, I hope you learned a lot from this. Take what you take from it, and I pray that you guys grow. Grateful to be here, grateful for the wisdom that I just got today. And I will try reading more.
Yeah, you're on the spotlight now. I'm going to follow that up. I'm going to check on you.
Yeah, but otherwise, man, continue to subscribe, like, comment if you are, inspired by this. And yeah, man, we hope we all grow. And thank you again, Baba Buntu,
Thank you
for having me here. We'll see you next time. Peace.